Now, at this time, I would like to welcome you to the regular public meeting of the Henry County Board of Commissioners for 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, January 18, 2011. At this time, I would invite you to join us for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Stamey.
Dear Father, Lord Jesus, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for every good and perfect gift you provide for us, Lord. I pray for our leaders in Washington. I pray you be with them and as they make decisions to guide our nation. Lord, I pray for our troops that are abroad trying to defend this nation. Lord, I pray you be with them and guide them safely home. Lord, I pray tonight that you just unite our minds and our souls together, and at the end of the day, we give you honor and glory for our decisions. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order, and let's see. Before I ask for an acceptance of the agenda, I would ask that we could amend the agenda to add an executive session, and we would do that prior to adjournment. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda with that change? Motion by Mr. Holder and a second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. I would like to make the following announcements. The following requests have been tabled by the applicant and will not be heard at this meeting. This item has been rescheduled for the February 15th meeting. Public hearing RZ-10-07, Thomas Scott Harrison and Lee Harrison of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C1 Neighborhood Commercial for property located at 4945 Highway 155 North in Land Lot 133 of the 11th District. The property is located within Commission District 5, and our presenter on that would have been Brecca Johnson, Planning and Zoning Department, and that's Exhibit number 1 in our book. If you are here for this item, it has been tabled by the applicant. It has been rescheduled for the February 15th meeting, and we would invite you, if you were here for that, to return on February the 15th when that item would be heard. Also, the following item has been tabled by the board. When this item is rescheduled, there will be a public notice and all interested parties will be notified. Appeal hearing, a request by Josh McCullough of Backwoods, The Woods, to appeal the revocation and denial of an alcohol license. Again, that has been tabled by the board, and it will be re-advertised with a public notice when that item will be heard. Moving on to the next item in the agenda, we have a presentation by the Speedway Children's Charities. And at this time, if you're here with Speedway Children's Charity, if you would, come forth. And we are really privileged to have with us Becky Sorensen and Ed Clark from Atlanta Motor Speedway with a presentation. Good evening.
Thank you for inviting us and let us do this here. We have decided to establish the Buster Dickerson It Is What It Is Award starting this year in 2010 for an outstanding volunteer from Speedway Children's Charities who has devoted their time and efforts into our giving every year. Buster Dickerson was a very valued member of our board, which we lost, and would like to memorialize him every year by nominating and having someone receive this award.
And Buster's wife, Ellen, is here tonight with us. And not only was Buster a great supporter of the Speedway Children's Charities, but Ellen was right there with him. And Ellen, we so much appreciate you and you being here tonight. Buster was a great friend to all of us, and he set a great example by giving of his time to help us raise funds to help children's organizations in need here, not only in Air County, but in the whole southern metro region. So I'll let Becky announce our winner and have her come up tonight, please.
We'd like to recognize Terry Nash from the Henry County Parks and Recreation. I believe she's been with them 5 years. Is that correct, Terry? 5? And actually, we've known her that long as well. As soon as she became on board with them, she was a volunteer with us. A lot of times we didn't even have to ask Terry. If she knew we had an event going on, she would just show up. She exemplifies why we have the success that we do and how we give away the grants to the foundation and We appreciate everything you do for us, and
All right, thank you.
we hope you'll continue to be a big part of our family.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
If you would, we would certainly like to have a photograph with the board members and, of course, Ed and Terry, because this is a wonderful recognition for all the hard work that you've done, and we're very proud of your contribution to this great organization. And for those of you who are not familiar with Speedway Children's Charities, let me just say they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for children's charities, many of the beneficiaries right here in Henry County, and we're so appreciative of the dedication of all the volunteers to helping the children's charities right here at home, and can't say enough about Ed Clark and the relationship he has with the Henry County Board of Commissioners and what Atlanta Motor Speedway means to this community, and thank you again for all your hard work. At this time, we have a resolution supporting the construction of the Southern Crescent Technical College Henry County campus, which is handout number 1. And I believe Ms. Kay Pippin from the Chamber is going to make that presentation. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me also add that today we had our first executive committee meeting of the Chamber, which is our top decision-making body, and we have a brand-new member of that committee, and it's your own employee, Julie Ernst, and we appreciate your allowing her to serve, and you now have her in a very key position to know anything and everything that's going on at the Chamber. We have an amazing working relationship with your staff, and I think you have one of the best staffs that I've ever worked with any institution across the board, so thank you for hiring good people and allowing them to participate with us. This is just such an exciting opportunity to present this resolution to you. Most of you are aware of this history, but this is truly a perfect civics lesson. This is about a community that recognized a need, that got itself organized, that worked through the processes of government, in this case state government, and made it all the way to the governor's office and into the governor's budget. And now we're looking at a $5.5 million recommendation coming from Governor Deal in his budget recommendations included in Georgia's fiscal year 2012 budget that he has now presented to the 2011 Georgia General Assembly. We are the #1 recommendation coming from the Technical College System of Georgia in its budget for capital outlay funds for a new project. That is, we could not be in a more enviable position. And all of you, as well as all of our mayors and our city councils, the Board of Education, the Chamber of Commerce, everybody in this community, wall to wall, has been a part of giving birth to this great project. It was truly a grassroots effort. We did it right. We've had a couple of setbacks along the way, but we could not be in a better position tonight. And what we are asking you tonight is to renew your commitment by passing a new resolution, which will be a statement to our state legislative delegation that we are certainly asking them to see this through to fruition, to watch our monies, to shepherd those monies, keep it in the budget as the budget travels through the Georgia House, then the Georgia Senate, and then comes to conference committee for the budget that everybody will agree on, to the point it makes it to Governor Deal's desk and his signature. If we come out of this session with $5.5 million, which is the recommendation, and we add that to monies we've already secured earlier in this process, somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million, we most likely will see ground turning on a 36,000 square foot facility adjacent to Henry County High School that will become the new Southern Crescent Technical College Henry County campus. This is not only going to enable Henry County's public and private high school students who are in the 11th and the 12th grade an amazing opportunity to be jointly enrolled in college and high school simultaneously. And very assertive students who do their work and do what they're supposed to do could very easily graduate from high school and an associate's degree on the same night, skipping 2 years that otherwise the rest of us spent to try to get a college degree. And not only would they be able to do that right here at home, but they would be able to do that free of charge, which is an amazing, amazing offering to the families of this community. It's also going to enable us to say to industry that we have the training right here at home to help jumpstart any industry that comes to our community. We're going to have the ability to train the workforce that's needed for existing industries so that they not only stay in our community, but that they expand their programming in this community as well. All of us know the joys of living in a college community. You can't go to one and not feel how exciting it is and what kind of growth grows up around colleges. So this is an exciting opportunity. We already make up 20% of the student body of those students who are currently going to Griffin and attending Southern Crescent Tech there. We are the largest population in the state of Georgia that is not currently served by its own technical school. And I think we've probably waited long enough for it to happen because we were the right place or we deserved it. We simply got busy as a community and everybody organized from the grassroots up. Our delegation knows at the Capitol that we're watching daily. We're excited. We think we have a good state legislative delegation in place and that they're going to be doing their homework to do everything they can to shepherd these funds through and not let them get lost in the process or appropriated to some other community. So tonight we just simply ask that you restate your commitment that you've had since day one in support of this effort, and that in this resolution you too are saying to our legislative delegation, hang tough, bring that money home, and let's open our own college campus in about a year in Henry County. Thank you very much for your support.
Does any board member have a question or a comment on this item? All right, if not, you have a resolution before you restating our support for the technical college, and I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Mr. Bowman, second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Kay. The next item on the agenda is a resolution establishing a 120-day moratorium on the acceptance of applications for permits, licenses, or approvals related to adult entertainment businesses within unincorporated Henry County. That's handout number 2, and our presenter is our County Manager, Butch Sanders.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, in my slightly over a year of service to Henry County, I have had the chance to look at and review several ordinances that are in our code book. It is clear to me that the intent and the accomplishment of the Board of Commissioners when it comes to adult entertainment is to have the strictest, most conservative ordinance on the books that is possible. And I think we do have an ordinance such as that, but what we also have is an ordinance, as you read in the fifth paragraph down in the resolution, an ordinance that was originally enacted in 1997 and last amended in July of 2002. In the interim, in September of 2010, last year, an updated zoning ordinance in the form of the ULDC as well as a comp plan was adopted. What this moratorium seeks to do is to provide the staff 120 days to make sure that we are in compliance and coordinated with the new documents that were adopted last year and still maintain that conservative, strict ordinance that you're looking for. We will go to work right away in this objective, and we will also be coordinating with the cities in Henry County to make sure that we do it as a team and it's seamless adoption.
Does any board member have a question or comment pertaining to this resolution? Mr. Bowman?
Just have a question. Butch, have we had any conversation with the cities at this time, or are they willing to work with us on these issues? Or?
We certainly have. The chairman called a meeting last week with all cities represented at that meeting, and we are asking for each city to assign a couple of members, and that will be the working group that will address this issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Arletta?
Do we at this time have any pending requests?
No, sir, we do not.
Anyone else? If not, you have...
The now therefore be it resolved portion of the resolution under subparagraph A, I left out a sentence, just a 120-day moratorium is hereby established on the acceptance of adult business license applications. If that could be the first sentence under subparagraph A after the resolve clause.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm under the now there be it resolved in item A.
And I would like to insert as the first sentence under item A 120-day moratorium is hereby established on the acceptance of adult business license applications, period.
Madam Clerk, did you get that change?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, with that one change being made at this time, if there's nothing further, you have a resolution before you, and I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Holder. Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to public safety, we have a resolution requesting authorization to purchase phone equipment for emergency communications. Our presenter is Don Ash, Emergencies Communications Director, Exhibit Number 2. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. Excuse me. The item I have before you is in reference to the E911 system and our E911 communications. As you're aware, we're getting ready to go out to bid on our new facility. And one of the things we're hoping to avoid is, as we move through the new facility process, is to avoid any change orders and equipment and specifications in the facility. We're looking to purchase the new E911 equipment as we move forward with this project. We solicit bids, and we received two, one from AT&T, one from Motorola, and we're recommending award to AT&T for the purchase of that equipment.
Does any board member have a question or comment? All right. If not, there is a resolution before you, and I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Motion carries 401. Mr. Bowman is abstaining from this vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, under Public Works, the first item is a resolution requesting authorization to remove speed humps on Cary Court. Our presenter is Terry McMickle, Public Works Division Director, Exhibit Number 3. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, board members. We do have a resolution from the Jodico, a portion of the Jodico Heights subdivision to remove some speed humps in Cary Court. We do have county ordinances that detail out how that's to be accomplished. The residents on this particular street followed those and met our criteria. So it's our recommendation to remove those speed humps on Cary Court. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does any board member have a question or comment pertaining to this item? If not, I believe, Mr. Arletta, this lies in your district, and I will entertain a motion.
I was going to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
The cost of removal, is it the county's cost, or is that?
Yes, sir. And that's not a real big expense, but yes, we'll move them at our expense.
Once they're removed, are they have any purpose or use, storing and using later, or are they destroyed?
Well, they're made out of asphalt, so we'll probably take the milling machine and mill them up, and it'll go on to the pile.
Just out of curiosity, I know you have to have a petition to have them put in. Do you remember when the petition came to put them in?
Commissioner Friedman was here when that was done, and I'm going to say that was about, and Warren may be able to, I'm going to say it was about 8 years ago, roughly.
I'm going to say 03, 4, somewhere,
Yeah.
3, 4, somewhere in that.
And it was a little bit interesting in how they occurred. Won't bore you with that story, but it doesn't surprise me that we've come back and asked for these to be removed.
I had a citizen who lives in that area tell me that someone went over one of those speed humps at 40 miles an hour, and their back window popped out of their vehicle. So
One of the issues and the reasons for them being there, the citizens were complaining about it being kind of a straight deal, and it's the speed, obviously, is the reason they put the humps in, and now they want them out.
I don't think you should go over them at 40 miles an hour.
Oh, it's a launching.
Well, they're supposed to be speed tables, and they're supposed to be designed where you go over them at 25 miles an hour. If you do much over 25, I would say they're not very comfortable.
All right, well, Mr. Arletta, this is in your district. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the removal of these speed bumps.
All right, we have a motion to approve, second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. The next item is a public hearing, a request from Jan Bannister to rename a portion of Robinson Drive, and that's going to be Exhibit Number 4.
Yes, Chairman, this is a public hearing, so it is a request from a property owner, Jan Bannister, lives on the road, to rename a portion of Robinson Drive to Bannister Drive. And the reason I put a portion of, if you'll look on your map, this Robinson Drive actually crosses McCart. So part of Robinson Drive, if you will, is on the west side of McCart, and part of it's on the east side of McCart. The section that's being requested to be renamed is the section that I would say is on the west side. So they have came in, filled out the request, paid their fee. We have advertised it and brought that before the board. So again, in public hearing, I guess we'll hear both sides of that, but that is the request. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
All right, Terry, do you know why the request is being made? Is it a public safety issue?
Ms. Bannister's here tonight. My understanding, and I don't want to speak for her, and if this is not correct, then correct me, I think they just simply want to change the road to Bannister. So there's not an issue with public safety, although we were talking before the meeting. I think there may be a little confusion whether it's Robinson Drive or Robinson Road, and if it remains Robinson, then Don Ash has left. Me and Don will talk about that tomorrow and make sure we get that cleared up, but I think it's mainly just to rename it a family name. But there's not that many. I think there's four or five property owners on the road.
What costs are involved with changing the name?
5. I'm sorry, sir.
What costs are involved with changing the name of a road?
The cost to us is simply the DOT. The cost is simply changing the sign itself. So that's $35, $40. But it's a lot more extensive process. To change the name of the road, we have to change our road name index. The assessors, or Cooper and his office, have to change the road name and the numbering system. That has to be sent to all of the public safety folks, the 911, police, fire, emergency services. Post office has to be notified, and they have to bring all their stuff up to date. The property owners, everybody that lives on the road, obviously has to change all of their billing addresses and bills. So everybody on the road has to change that.
So the cost can be extensive? when you add
So
all those
the
together?
cost is not, I mean, I don't know how much time internally Henry County folks it would take to change, all the names and street addresses and send out those notifications, but there's some time in it. So it's not direct cost, it's more indirect cost. And I would think that the concern, or my concern, and I'm not public safety, but, is the conversion till everybody got used to the road name being changed. So that would be if I've got any apprehension in it, it's concern, until the public safety people get familiar with it. So that's a concern.
Does everyone in the area approve of the road change or the name change?
Well, obviously, the Bannisters are here, and I'm sure they approve, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but I asked Jeanette Dix, our right-of-way coordinator who handles this, if we had any calls come in about this, either pro or con, and we didn't receive any phone calls. So,
Well, it looks like it only affects a limited number of property owners, maybe 4, 5 at the most.
I think there's 5 parcels, and Bannister owns 2 of them. So,
Well, Ms. Bannister, since you're the applicant requesting this, if you would like to come forward and if there's something else you'd like to add to the presentation, we'd certainly like to hear from you. If you would, please state your name for the record. The microphone couldn't pick you up from back there.
Jane Bannister. We've lived on the property. We own most of the property on Robinson Drive. Let me see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the houses on the west side is all family. And so the only other 2 are, I think they're owned by developers or something. I believe one home is they're renting. I don't know the story on the other one. And actually, I've been meaning to do this for quite some time, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's basically to name it for the family name, and no other reason.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask if there's any questions the board members may have for Ms. Bannister.
I have none, but I'd like to inject this for, maybe Ms. Bannister's not even aware of it, but this Robinson Road actually went completely through to Ellistown Road many, many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
See, I mean, that was so
It
many
used to be in
years.
Butts
In fact,
County.
if you notice where the cul-de-sac is, that road actually extended past that and came out. And the old schoolhouse is still standing at the Ellistown School,
Yes,
right
sir.
on Ellistown Road. So that road came back out over there, and it kind of ran, and if you think about it, that's the way it went. This other section of Robinson, for those of you who don't know where it is, basically goes up in cul-de-sacs, and that road was originally part of, that went to Sardis Baptist Church Cemetery. And when McCart Road was paved several years ago, probably 5, 6 years ago, I'm guessing at that time, it was relocated, and that road was cul-de-sac so that traffic could not travel through Sardis's parking lot because of the safety of children there. And that's the reason McCart Road was paved, relocated, and made Robinson basically a remnant, is what it amounted to. And the section to the west of McCart is the section in question. And you said that the Bannister family owns 3 of the 5 parcels, or 4 of the 5?
There are 2 on the right side. There are actually 3 on the other side, but it's all family, our family.
but let me make sure, and you may want to look at this and make sure I'm right. I think it's this parcel, and this parcel.
Okay, now this is McCart. Okay, it starts, family starts here and goes all the way around to there. So then on this side of the road, you've got 2 houses, this one and I think that one, if I'm looking at it right.
I think 390's got an address on
It's McCart.
So there'd be an address here and here, other than the Bannister.
Yeah, that's a 3.
Just with the exception of two.
And then the driveway that goes back behind 270. Yeah.
So there's two other addresses, 255 and 270,
That are not family.
family.
Or Bannisters, is that
This
correct?
is my daughter.
Okay.
And her daughter's here with me, my granddaughter.
Okay. And then the Kiesler Group that owns the piece of property, is that correct?
I didn't hear.
The Kessler Group.
Kessler Group, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
looking
now
on
they're,
those.
they're across the street.
And there's nothing there, it's just raw land right now?
I can't hear.
The Kessler Group?
No, there's a house, if you'll notice on this aerial, Commissioner, I don't know if you can see it. but
That's
it's
a house right there? Okay.
And then there's a house here, so there is.
Those two addresses, there is houses. I don't know that they're occupied right now, but there is two houses.
They are, but I think they're owned by developers or somebody. I
I'm
don't know.
reading off of what we have in our exhibit here, and it says the Kiesler Group or Kessler, and then the other's Beaver Builders, evidently the other two.
That's correct.
Is the Kessler Group on Robinson Street, Robinson Road?
Yes.
Are they on Robinson Road, the Kessler Group?
Terry, maybe, I don't know who, Tanja, do we have some type of policy or something that says when and how we allow people to rename streets? I mean,
We do have an ordinance. I don't think it's been updated for quite some time. And an additional cost is the ad in
Right.
the newspaper
Right
that we
now,
have.
if
And right
people come
now,
in and petition, our process is if they come in and petition and pay a fee, that they can request of this board to have the road name changed.
does it require everybody that lives on that road to sign and agree to the change?
No, sir, that's all it does, is the procedure is just simply that. Now, we, the DOT, we send out a certified letter to each property owner notifying them of the request and of this hearing date, because this is a public hearing. So we do send a certified letter to each property owner notifying of this request, so they can come either in favor of or so they can come, since it's a hearing, they can state.
So the two parties that are shown here that are not part of the family have been notified
By certified letter.
by certified letter.
And
a
by the
publication in the newspaper, Commissioner.
My other, I guess, also question is that, what I sort of hear you saying is that if I want to name my street after myself, I can make a request to the county, and then you'll mail letters out, and
If you got to pay me the money first, and
I'll
then,
pay you the money. I'm just saying, that's as easy as it gets, I guess.
that's correct.
And what does that cost, Terry? Is it $150?
150.
And that's one thing the finance director and I were just talking about, as we were listening to all of the other costs associated with that. It may be time to revisit that cost.
I'm just looking at the process itself as to the ease with which somebody, and we can start to have everybody wanting to name the streets after themselves or whatever else, and what are we opening up there? So that's the question I have.
You always have the right to deny the request.
Understand? But you have to be consistent. That's why I was asking what we have in the way of ordinance or rules or whatever else to do it.
Yeah. Jerry, do we have a staff recommendation on this? Or shouldn't we have one in our book here?
I can give you how I personally feel about it as the director, so I guess we'd call that a recommendation.
Absolutely.
My recommendation in this particular case, because it's not that many people affected, it would normally be, I don't see a problem with it. But if I had to recommend, I would say no, because of the very issue that Commissioner Arletta is discussing. What I don't want to see is a lot of people coming in and doing this, and it creates, again, my concern for not being in favor of it is nothing against the Bannister family at all. It's the concern about 911 and the changeover into doing that. Really, I would like to see this ordinance addressed and it become a necessity in the public's best interest. You know, to change the road name is just think about people now with their GIS or GPS units that may want to go somewhere, and it just takes time for all of these people to adjust all that into the system. So if we do this, I think it really needs to be because of the public safety type issues, or we have an overlap or some conflict of road names or something like that, some real problematic or some reason to change. And I have nothing against Bannisters at all. Like Warren said, when we pay the road, they work with us very, very well in getting right away and doing all that. But as far as the public's best interest, I think we need to be real selective before we arbitrarily change names.
Well, in this case, Terry, I can see where we could potentially see a public safety issue because you have the same name road going in both directions. And I know in the event of a medical emergency, seconds count in response time, and if the emergency vehicle made a wrong turn onto Robinson, it could really eat up some very critical time in responding to a medical need.
That does happen. It happens now. They'll turn the wrong way.
Because that is Robinson on both sides. It doesn't distinguish east, west.
They have
or
come
anything.
down our way, though, looking for the other side and vice versa.
And respond to that, I strongly agree with what Commissioner Holder said. If we go back in time, that a road where Robinson's at on the east side was the original Robinson road. So that side of it certainly needs to remain. But the addresses, we obviously have a lot of roads that cross other roads and continue. If we're going to change it for that reason, then I think what we ought to do is check with Cooper down in who kind of assigns the addresses and make sure that the addresses go in the logical way where they start on one side and increase and logically flow across. If we're not doing that, and that part of it's confusing where we don't have the addresses, that make sense going the way it goes, then we possibly may want to consider changing it. For instance, there's some places in the county, and I can't tell you the road name, but where you're going along and the addresses don't begin at the lowest number and increase as you go to the east. There's blocks of things that are misnumbered because of some road name changes and really messed up some numbering system. If this one's messed up, then it would be a good reason to change it. If it's not, then it's not. And I'm not sure whether this one's problematic or not. Again, just looking on here, you can see there's an address up there at 205, and then coming on down, when you go south and go toward hers,
here's an address of 205. This is address 305, but it's probably because it's facing McCart, so you can't count that. Then you go 250, 290,
and 300.
255, 270, and 300.
Yeah.
So,
City of Mr. Stamey?
Terry, so the way we're looking at it, if we're coming down McCart, Robinson Road, when it goes into the cul-de-sac, that's not Robinson Court. It's still Robinson Road, correct?
It's Robinson Drive, actually, on both sides of the road. Left and right. If you turn left or right, you're Robinson Drive.
Okay.
But it's still listed in a lot of places as Robinson Road. It's on a lot of maps in different places. Also, from our home, I've called 911, and they will transfer me to Butts County. So, and then they have to transfer back to Henry. And we've been there 26 years, and we're still running into a problem. So.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Bannister? All right, if not, I know this is a public hearing, and so at this time I'd like to ask if there is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this request. Is there anything further from the board? Mr. Holder, I believe this lies in your district, so I'll look to you for a motion.
It does, and if you look at the page that shows basically the tax map, and you'll see Isaac Head Road, that gives you an idea as to how close this particular property is to the Butts County line. And this map is not reflecting the new county line that was changed probably 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, when was it? It was a while back. But Kathy was the Secretary of State at the time. Anyhow, this is an issue. I don't like changing names unnecessarily, but I know some history behind this, and the Bannisters own all of the property along the road with the exception of 2 parcels, and they are owned either by a builder or by some investment group. And with that, Madam Chair, I move to approve the name change of Robinson Drive on the west side of McCart Road to Bannister Drive.
We have a motion to approve the request. Is there a second? We have a motion on the floor to approve the request, and I will call again for a second. All right, the motion dies for lack of a second. At this time, I'll look for an alternate motion if there is one.
I don't know why you would need one, because without any action, it remains as Robinson Drive, I guess.
All right.
That's my opinion, but Madam, I defer to the attorney. Is that correct?
It remains as it is today before
That's
the
correct.
request came to you. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bannister.
Thank you.
The next item is a public hearing, a request from Brian and Julie Lucas to rename Cronin Drive, and that's Exhibit number 5.
Madam Chair, board members, what we have again is a request from Brian and Julie Lucas to rename Cronin Drive, to change it from Cronin Drive to McClung Drive. We have, look, the only thing different in this presentation than before is we have a petition that was submitted and then changed, modified, and resubmitted. So we do have a petition from some of the property owners that have signed that should be in your packet. Be happy to answer any questions you may have on this one.
Okay.
Again, this one, same thing applies. We sent all the affected property owners certified letters, ran it in the paper.
Well, my question would be the first one I had with our last, the last request. Is there a public safety reason or a reason for wanting to rename the road? And I guess if you're the applicant, you could probably answer that question. I'm sorry, could you give us your name, please?
Brian Lucas, 425 Cronin Drive. There's a lot of safety issues other than the name change. As far as a name change, I would have to say that there's no reasoning for changing the name due to safety.
So you just...
The reason for the name change, can I...
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, this all evolved back in the spring when I stood before you concerning the public safety issues of a cul-de-sac at the end of Cronin Drive, which I think the entire board at that time agreed we needed to pursue in some way to try to work that issue out. Hope that that'll come at a later date. What has been brought to all of our attention is that when this road was adopted, according to Mr. McMickle's office, and it's handwritten in at the bottom, April the 1st, 1986. I went to every resident other than the Cronins and started doing my research. Then I took what I found from my neighbors and went back to Mr. McMickle's office with his assistant, and also, furthermore, went to the newspapers. This road was never public noticed when it got adopted for the name. So that's why Mary and Charlie are here today. They were actually the ones that lived here before anybody on this particular road. So when we brought the issue to the neighbors concerning the cul-de-sac, and she realized that she never had a right and a say-so on the name change to begin with, when the county adopted this road, it upset all of the neighbors. And I guess they need to be forgiven for being naive. You know, not everybody in the county knows what's going on with the commissioner meetings and how they work. I brought everybody up to speed on that, took petitions to each and every house that I knew wanted the name changed according to their lawful ways of, needing to proceed. Now, Mr. McNichol, I have a question for the record. Have you guys found any paperwork proving that there was public notice, or?
Do you want me to respond?
Please.
I could honestly say that I have not seen any paperwork in the original request to name this road, but of the 1,100 miles that we currently have, all the existing roads that are named, I probably won't find nothing in those road name files either. So, how roads originally get their names, I don't know. They are what they are. So, I don't have it for this one. I didn't have it for the original one on McCart or Robinson or...
You brought a road renaming request to us a couple of years ago for a road named No Name Road.
Absolutely. I mean, if somebody's requested to change them, a lot of these roads were named all kinds of ways. And, and after time, they get named and they stay that way. And for me to go back and dig up, I don't know of a road name that I've got in my files that I can tell you originally how that road got its name, except new subdivisions. And then we approved any potential road name that they want to name it to keep from having duplicate road names and stuff like that. But on the new road names, we approve those. We don't name them or we don't petition. I don't bring them to the board. They petition us. We look and see if it's a conflict and it meets our criteria. In the new process, they get final platted that way. But we don't have public hearings on road names, typically, unless there's a request to change it.
In response to that, so if we go back to the 80s, and I've lived here my entire life, and a resident builds a house and moves on a no-named road, that resident can come into Henry County and request to put a street sign up and have the county adopt the road and name it what he wants to name it without the other residents' knowledge? That just doesn't add up to any of us as neighbors on this road.
Mr. Holder?
Mr. Lucas, let me ask a question. In fact, two questions. First of all, the McClones were the first residents on that road. Is that
I'm Mary McClung Brannon.
Okay, but your family was the first ones on that road.
Yes, sir. I actually have the letter here from Fred Crumley Realtor, where my father bought the farm on June 5th, 1964.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Were you or your parents living on that road at the time that it was named Cronin Road?
I had a residence in my barn. We had a house trailer on the farm.
Okay, that's not my point. Were you a resident of that property?
No.
Okay. The second thing is, if you were the first resident on that road, and I'm going to use as an example, Mr. Lucas, if you're the first person, and we're going to call it a road, you are really on a driveway at that point. You're on your private driveway. All right, the terminus of that road ends, I guess, back at Mr. Cronin's, and I'm assuming, it's not in my district, but I'm going to make some comments. it ends at Mr. Cronin's driveway, at his property line. And if he is trying to get delivery of mail or whatever, it basically, when the McCluns were the only people there, that was their private driveway, and their mailbox was probably down at East Lake Road. Okay? But it was not named, though, at the time. Is that correct?
We would get mail there. I ran my business there since 1980.
Okay.
And I would get letters there, Willowick Morgan Farm, McDonough, Georgia.
But no road, no street address. Okay, that's my point. But being the first, it was considered, in my opinion, the way I would view it, it would be your private driveway. When another person bought another parcel of land further down the way, then it becomes, it can't be a private drive anymore because you can't have two residents on the same driveway. It becomes some sort of road. That's all I have at this point.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before I ask for public comment?
Well, I was just hoping that this being brought to light now, that we could right a wrong, because my father wanted that road named after him, and Joe took it upon himself to name the road without asking my dad. He came in and just told him after it had been done. And that was wrong. So I would like to try to right a wrong tonight.
At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the applicant's request. Yes, ma'am.
Will we get to rebut?
You've probably got about 5 minutes left on your time. If you would you please state your name for the record?
I'm Beverly Cronin. This is my husband, Joe Cronin. And we live at the end of Cronin Drive. We bought the land. The road had no name. Mr. Mack did not live there. They did not have a mailbox. There was no mailbox. The county, he complained that he couldn't get the county to come work the road for him. He did not live there. He knew we were naming the road. He never. We talked to Mr. Brian's Green. He owned all the property other than the McCluns. He agreed. He said, we asked him. He said, that's fine with him. Mr. Mack, we talked to him. He lived there he owned his land 10 years before we bought ours. If he wanted that road named for him, he had 10 years to name it, and he didn't. We named it Cronin Drive. He never once.
Excuse me. Walker McGarity named it Cronin Drive. Walker and I.
Could you please state your name for the record, sir?
Joe Cronin.
Okay.
Mr. Walker McGarity. I was in his office, and the road had no name, and this was in 1978. Mr. Walker McGarity named that road Cronin Drive in 1978.
And no one had any complaint. Like I said, we were the only ones that lived on that road.
And nobody else. Mr. Mack McClung was a fine fella, but he had no desire for his name to be on that. That never was brought up. But Mr. Mack did not live there. He would come down to the place. But now we bought that land in 1978 and started our house in 78. And that's how the road was named.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
1978, you said?
78.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to the request? Yes, sir, if you could step to the mic. Yes.
Excuse me, can I say something else? And I sure don't care nothing about it being changed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If you would, please state your name for the record.
My name's Scott Renfro. I live on Airline Road, and I've lived there over 20 years, probably since about 1988. When I moved down here, Joe Cronin was one of the first people that I met. He did most of the work on Airline where we've got the board fences. And, you know, the road's been Cronin Road since 1978. Again, it was talked about earlier as a safety hazard to change these roads. There's a ton of traffic on East Lake right there. Everybody knows that as Cronin Road. They've always been fine, upstanding citizens of this county, and I just think it would be terrible to change the name of the road.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Yes, ma'am, if you could step forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Edith Sanders, and I own property on the corner of East Lake and 20, which is in seeing distance of Cronin Drive, and I've owned that property since October of 1987, and it was Cronin Drive. And I really don't see a purpose in changing a road name, as you have stated previously, if there is not a safety issue. I believe that this change is being requested due to a personal dispute between neighbors on Cronin Drive, and I don't believe that that is a valid reason to change a road name. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to the request? All right, if not, if the applicants would like to come back, we've got 5 minutes left before we call for a motion, if there's anything else you would like to add.
I'd like to conclude that this is about democracy. We've got a petition signed by everyone on this road but the Cronins, and we all agree we'd like for the name to be changed. This is the kicker. This road is not owned by Henry County. We all own this road. It is a county-maintained road. And I could actually see the opposition on this board to deny if the county owned the right-of-way. This is a private drive. There is the public safety issue of the Cronins fencing off or gating the end of this road, where the county adopted in 1986. It was brought up back in June, where Terry McMickle went on the record and said that the millings do go past this fence, this gate, that he puts up and closes every single evening to where no one else but people that come to his residence can turn around in it. So there's a lot of issues here. Yes, it is a personal vendetta, wouldn't you say, if you move to the street and realize that somebody named a road without you even having the knowledge to disagree with the name of the road or having consent, coming to a compromise. I mean, that's what this is all about. We've got all of the signatures. I don't know if Terry had even given copies to the board. Ray Griffin owns over 170 acres. We've got his. He would like to change the name. If you look at the majority here, it's a democracy thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Holder.
If I might, let me clear the air, Mr. Lucas, before you leave, Mr. McMickle. I know you said this is a private driveway. You may own to the center of the road, but the county has a prescriptive easement to maintain that road, so therefore it is a public road, but it's owned by the people. But we have a prescriptive easement to get there. There's a big difference in a private drive and a prescriptive easement road. Is that not correct?
It is a public road.
That's my point. And that's what I wanted clear for the record, that it is a public road, even though you and each property owner own to the center of the road. And you may own, if you own on both sides of the road, you own the entire road. Mm-hmm. But the point is, there's a big difference in a private drive and a public road on a prescriptive easement.
I understand.
Okay.
One last thing. I think the Cronins had made the statement that this road was named in 1978. We've got Henry County's record here that says it was not named until 1986, April the 1st. So I don't know where they're coming up that it was named in 1978 if our own county can't produce the records stating that other than 1986. And at that time, Mr. Griffin did own the 170 acres. They owned their farm. Mr. Hutchinson was a land purchaser of that time. Bringing up Mr. Green and everyone back in the 70s has nothing to do with when the county adopted the road in 1986. Everybody should have had a say-so what that road was named.
If I can address that, what he has is a road inventory sheet. To my knowledge, that's not a document that we would say is a legal document when the road got named. You'll find those in just about every file we have. At some point in time, they went through and did an inventory. There's probably, I'm sure that date is on there, as he's stating. To me, that doesn't mean that's when the road that's when that inventory was done. And it lists the length of the road, gives a lot of details, but it's just a piece of paper in a file that's a road inventory sheet.
Mr. McMickle, you stood before me in the past meetings that we've had when this material was produced to me. Now, I'm going based on what the county has given me. And he stated verbatim that when the state, if I'm not mistaken, the state has to approve the adoption. And that form is right here to the Department of Transportation and the state. And at the date at the bottom, it says February 26, 1987. So there's your record, other than files for Henry County.
That's when it was sent to the state, and the state probably did indeed give it a state road number. I mean, that's what that says. So yes, it was then.
That's legally when it was adopted by the state, correct?
That's the state. That's when it was given a state number, state route. Just like this has, I think, the county road number, that's when the state issues a county road number, when we supply that.
And how long does it usually take once you submit that to the state?
Well, when we submitted, it was, it could be, my point is, it could have been already a road. But absolutely, by this date, it was sent to the state, and the state account assigned it a state number. So it does have a state number, which just more than verifies it indeed is a county road. You can go to GDOT map, and it'll show it on there, and it'll show that state route number. Now, sometimes we either send those in if there's a modification or an extension. We send those forms in a lot. If we rename this road, there'll be another one of these that gets sent to the state, because they'll have to change the GDOT road name system.
That one actually says extension. This particular form actually has it written in, other highway improvement specific extension. So, that could have been this.
Time has expired on this item, and so at this time, I'm going to look to Mr. Stamey for...
Ron, I think we've got a couple of questions for you. I'm sure you sat through the previous one with the other Ms. Bannister, and I'm listening to dialogue going back and forth, and you have approached this board about fixing that cul-de-sac, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we fix that cul-de-sac and we don't own this piece of property, we're technically on private property. Is that correct, Terry?
That would be correct.
So that creates another type of emergency situation that we feel exists today, and that's fixing that turnaround, which I've been out there 3 times, Terry?
Yes, sir.
And we're trying to address that. Do you still want us to pursue addressing that issue as far as the turnaround when we're concerning school buses and fire trucks turning around and at that cul-de-sac to service you, Mr. Cronin, and the Hutcherson piece, correct?
Yes, sir.
You still want us to move on that, correct?
Yes, sir.
If I, in good faith, tonight, change this name right here tonight, I'm creating another hazard with our public safety and emergency situation. You heard the lady before said she'd been there for 27 years, and they still miss her down there. So I'm going to change the name and create 2 situations where we already have one that we're on the verge of fixing. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand your point of view. There's also another way of looking at it also. When a new subdivision comes on the arise and it gets put into the system, and there's rules or percentage of mishap when you incur a new subdivision or even a new street or the new streets that the county's building within. It's called change. And, you know, again, going back to the democracy of it all, we the people, our voice should be heard. And if, you know, you get the majority, the name was named incorrectly to begin with. I don't really have a problem as much as my other neighbors do, but now that they've been given the information of how the road was named, they could care less about naming it McClung. They're willing to sit and go with the Cronins and name it on something on a medium here. Name it whatever, you know, everybody agrees to name it. I have had Mr. Cronin tell me a dozen times to my face, that's his road. That is his road. He's told my kids, and you know what? I'm not trying to take anything away from the man. It was his driveway at one time. It's not his driveway anymore. It's all of our roads to get to our driveways. And our voice wants to be heard in naming it something else.
I think you've been heard because I'm addressing the concerns.
Yes, sir.
But I'm also using public safety material to enhance that road and maintain that road, correct?
If the Cronins are concerned about public safety. And
I didn't bring the Cronins in.
Well, all of us in that matter. There's issues with mailboxes in the wrong location. Mr. Cronin told me that he doesn't need public safety. He can take his own people to the hospital. I've brought that to the board's attention. So I don't want this to be a feud. I feel as though everybody has the right to name a road and not given a chance. That's unfair.
Okay, one last comment, Terry. This is another one I think that we probably need to fix as far as a staff recommendation on this one too. Would you mind giving me some opinion on it?
My recommendation, because of the amount of things it would take to change this road to really, because it's not a public safety issue. There's no road name duplications or anything like that. My recommendation would be to leave it Cronin Drive, or to leave it Cronin.
Okay, thank you. With that recommendation, I'd like to make my motion to deny the name change.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to deny the name change. It's got a second by Mr. Bowman. All in favor? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. At this time, we're moving into public comments. Our citizens are allowed to voice county-related concerns, opinions, etc., that are not listed on the agenda during this portion of the meeting. We had one person who did sign up prior to the beginning of the meeting, which is the requirement for public comment, and you will be allowed to address the board for 5 minutes. At this time, the only one we have signed up for public comment is Brenda Padavani of 186 Ashley Drive in McDonough, and she's here to talk about the UCE. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and other members of the board. My name is Brenda Padavani. I live at 186 Ashley Drive, McDonough, Georgia, 30252. As most of you know, and for the record, I am a member of the 3rd District Community Coalition Incorporated, most commonly referred to as 3DCC Incorporated. However, tonight, I respectfully come before you as a private Henry County citizen and not as a member of any organization. It has been 6 months since the proposed Unified Code of Ethics, better known as UCE, was publicly, and I might add, very respectfully presented to the board on July 20th, 2010, as a starting point of cooperation between Henry County officials and its citizens regarding the very important matter of updating and combining the current ethics codes, policies, and procedures into one document and the creation of an independent bipartisan Board of Ethics. To my knowledge, a committee was formed by the BOC to review the proposed UCE, with the promise of a report being completed and presented to the public by early November 2010. Once again, to my knowledge, each month thereafter, the report has been delayed until the upcoming month. The most recent delay was justifiably until the new members of the board could be seated. The new Henry County Board is now complete, and all new members have been seated. Also, I am sure that the board members want to follow through on their commitments to their constituents. Therefore, I respectfully request that a copy of the committee's report be made available to the public at the time of its submission to the BOC, and that it occur no later than January 31st, 2011. Thank you very much for your time and service.
All right, I appreciate the comment, and we typically don't comment on public comment, but this evening I feel like it's important that I do so. The UCE, or the proposed UCE, was submitted to this board in July. It is a several hundred-page document, and it was very detailed. It pulled a lot of information from other jurisdictions, and based on the reception of some of the commissioners that evening, if we had called for a vote at that time, it probably wouldn't have been something that would have been acceptable to the board. However, because citizens put so much time and energy and effort into putting this document together, without including the Board of Commissioners in on those meetings, we felt that it was important that we appoint an independent review committee to look at this several hundred-page document. Our county attorney, along with our communications director, our HR director, and the division director of planning and economic development, over the past 6 months have met on multiple occasions to dissect completely, paragraph by paragraph, what was presented by the citizens who took so much time to put that document together. Not only have they taken the time to dissect that document, but they have also taken time to research other jurisdictions and other ethics ordinances that are in place to compare them to what has been presented by the 3DCC organization. They've also taken the time to research the state ethics code so that they made sure that they did not leave any stone unturned in the review of this rather extensive document. The individuals that undertook this at the request of the board are probably 4 of the busiest employees that we have in this county with multiple responsibilities. And oftentimes this information would go home with them in the evenings for them to review and come back together and to meet together in order to make sure that they fully understood what was being presented by the group. And I applaud them and their efforts, all their time and efforts that have gone into this. This presentation was originally thought to be, would be completed by December, but because we do have 2 board members coming on, 2 new board members, we felt like that in fairness to them that it needed to wait until they were in office. And so the county attorney is still in the process of putting together final recommendations on this document, at which time she will have a public presentation. It will be submitted to all the public at the same time in this public meeting forum so that all of our citizens will have an opportunity to see their recommendations at one time. And we feel like this is the best way to make sure that we keep all of our citizens fully informed. We appreciate all the energies and the efforts that 3DCC has put into this. We know that many hours were spent putting this document together, and we did not want to take it lightly. Ethics is a serious matter, and none of the board members take that lightly, and we didn't want to flippantly look through something, carelessly toss something aside without weighing each and every part of that seriously and considering all aspects of it. And so that is the reason why it has taken so long for that review. And I think it would be a disservice to your group if we had carelessly just flown through that and dismissed it without giving it careful consideration. So it will be forthcoming by January 31st. I don't know. We don't have another public meeting before the end of this month. And so in all likelihood, it will come before the public at one of our meetings in February, and which one I'm not sure. Our county attorney may wish to add some additional comments. I don't know if I've covered everything, but
Madam Chairman, thank you very much. We do anticipate perhaps in February to bring that to the full board. We do anticipate a February meeting to present that to the full board, yes.
Oh, thank you. May I respond to something that you said, Chairman Mathis? In all due respect, the actual proposed UCE was 32 pages. The remaining documents were backup from where we had done research with Carl Vinson Institute, with Gwinnett County and other counties surrounding Atlanta to see what they were doing. And that's where the hundreds of pages came into effect. The actual proposed UCE, which I was a part of, and I didn't want to be a member of 3DCC tonight. I'm a citizen. But I can tell you what I know about it. I typed it up. I know how long it is. It was 32 pages.
But with the additional information that was attached, it needed to be reviewed in its entirety.
That was certainly something that was presented to you for review, and I appreciate the efforts that have gone into that. Please believe that. But 6 months seems to be kind of a long time before you get back a report of some sort to the public as to what's transpiring with it.
Well, from this, being in county government for six years now, I can tell you 6 months is not a long time. As a matter of fact, I spoke to the county attorney earlier about a simple parade ordinance that we tabled in September that still hasn't come back before the board. So it's not a long time. And I want to make sure that we get this right, because one of the things that Mr. Holder refers to often is some of the changes that we make to documents that we adopt as a board. And we go back and we change it and we change it and we change it. And it seems to lose its effectiveness when you go back and you're constantly changing documents. So we want to, whatever we adopt, we want to assure that we get it right, or as close to right as we can the first time, so we're not going back and making changes to it. I don't think that sets a very good example for the public if we can't be people of our word once we adopt something. So something that this serious, I think, requires a lot more thought and serious consideration.
And we appreciate that. It certainly does. The only thing that I am requesting is a report as to the status of where we stand.
And I believe the county attorney feels that February that should be complete.
And I might also add, Madam Chairman, that I think the organization indicated to the county that it took more than a year to have your proposal put together.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
We were told that it took your organization more than 1 year to get a proposal together. So we have done our review in half the time that it took you all to provide the document.
It took about 10 months. I will give you that.
It's a lot. It's a lot of information.
Yeah. But, you know, we were novices at gathering the information as well. So, you know, that kind of
And we thank you all for your efforts in that regard. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was
and
a
the
huge
intent,
undertaking.
and I will go here. Did not get to say this too much at the previous meeting where this UCE was presented. But I, as a member of the board or the committee that worked on that, I can tell you that our intent was only to make Henry County a better place to live for everybody, not just a few.
Certainly.
And fair is fair. I don't care what your status in life is. Fair is fair. And that's where we were coming from for this. And personally, did we know going into it that it would need changes? Yes, we did. And we did not mean to exclude the board in any way, shape, or form. We were only presenting it as a beginning point to talk about. And it was totally misconstrued. And that is, for the effort that I put into it, that really hurt. But that's in the past. Let's move forward, and let's please work on it and get it going, because it is important to the county.
Absolutely. And we certainly appreciate all of your time and effort that went into that. And I'm sure the board members feel the same way I do. We do appreciate your efforts and your concern for Henry County. We need more citizens to be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. County Manager, any comments?
Madam Chair, I appreciate the board's struggle with some of the street name change requests tonight, and I can tell you that Mr. Aletta hit on I think a strategy that I'd like to work on with Mr. McMickle and Ms. Wiley to come up with a more objective measure for making such decisions, and I think we can do that.
Okay. Ms. County Attorney?
No, ma'am.
The upcoming meetings and events, Monday, January 31st, and I stand corrected, we did have one more meeting in January. I didn't realize we did. Monday, January 31st at 9 a.m., we have a workshop meeting, and Tuesday, February 1st at 9 a.m., a regular board meeting. Thursday, February 3rd at 4 p.m., we have a called meeting with the Hospital Authority to be held at the County Administration Building in Conference Room B. Monday, February 14th at 9 a.m., and Tuesday, February 15th at 6:30 p.m. Those are both regular board meetings. At this time, before I ask for a motion to convene into executive session, I do need a motion to amend the agenda and add approval of the September 20th and 21st minutes. Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. We have the September 2020 first meeting. Do you have any corrections to be made to that? Okay, I need a motion for approval. Did I do approval, or did I do a motion to amend and approve? Amend, okay. I need motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Bowman. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. All right. At this time, I need a motion to convene into executive session for the purposes of potential pending litigation, personnel matters, and land acquisition. Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. I need a motion to reconvene into public session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stamey. Second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. At this time, I need a motion to approve the executive session affidavit and resolution pertaining to executive session. Motion by Mr. Arletta, second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. If there's no further business to come before this board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Mr. Arletta. Second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. We stand adjourned.